Hi, I'm cKnoor, and in this video I'm going to try and give a brief overview of what Blood Bowl 3 is and if it's a game for you. At the end of the video, hopefully you'll know if this is something you want to play or if it's just an insane game. Hopefully both. Let's get started. Blood Bowl is a two-player turn-based game that started out as a parody of American football. It plays over two halves. Whoever has the most touchdowns at the end of the game wins. Simple, elegant, and... oh, did I mention that a large portion of the game is both coaches trying to injure the other coach's players so hard that the players have to retire and can no longer take part in the game? That's a thing too. And my favorite part, the more you play with a team, the more experience the players on that team are going to get, and you can use that experience to level up your players so that they gain new skills and abilities, making them even better at the game. Assuming they survive. But before you get started, you need to create a team. So let's jump in game and do that right now. And you need to know that not all teams are created equal. Some are just better than others. And different teams excel at different things. Some teams, like the Orc team or the Dwarf team here, have high armor value. And that means that their players are less likely to get injured. Other teams focus more on agility, like Elven Union and Skaven, and their players tend to be better at running around on the pitch, dodging away from opponents, and picking up and catching the ball. You should pick a team that suits your playstyle, and if you're just starting out, a team that's decent at everything but great at nothing, like this human team here, is probably a decent option. As mentioned, each team is different, but they all share the same basic line of stats. Let's look at this human lineman as an average example. They have MA6, that stands for movement allowance. That's how many squares they are allowed to move in a turn. 6 is slow but not too slow. ST stands for strength. 3 is considered average. AG stands for agility, and that shows you how good a player is at picking the ball up, dodging away from opponents, catching the ball, and similar things. 3+ is considered average. PA stands for passing. 4+ is okay. Finally, we have AV. That stands for armor value. And the higher the armor value is, the less likely a player is to get injured. So, all of the teams are different. Some are better than others. Pick the one you find interesting, create a team, and then let's get into game. Because it's been over 3 minutes and we still haven't talked about the actual, game portion yet. As mentioned earlier, the game takes place over two halves. You have 8 turns each. So 8 turns in the first half, 8 turns in the second half, 16 turns in total for each player. The person that has the most touchdowns at the end of the game wins. To score a touchdown, you need to get to the other player's end zone with a player holding the ball, which is easier said than done. As mentioned, each player has a movement stat. This tells you how many squares a player can move in one turn. For example, this thrower here has a movement of 6, so they can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And since we are in our first turn, we should probably try and pick the ball up. Let's have our thrower here run over to the ball and step on the same square, and we can see that it says 3+ to pick up. That means I need to roll a die. If I roll 3 or more, I will be able to pick the ball up. However, I also want to pass to my catcher that's over here. So to do that, I instead have to make a pass action before I move. So let's ignore all of this, go down here, and select pass action. Let's see if we can pick the ball up first, and then we'll keep moving from there. We did it. We rolled a 4. Now, the further you want to pass, the harder it is, which is indicated by these colored squares here. I want to pass to my one catcher over here, so let's start by going over here. Nice. Okay, so we're still in this yellow border here. So if I try and pass now by clicking on this player, I see that it's a 3+ to pass, and it's a 2+ to catch. If I instead were to move 2 more squares and then pass, we can see it's a 2+, 2+, and then another 2+ to pass for the same agility to catch. I don't want to do that because that seems like it's too many rolls. So instead, I'm going to ignore that and just try and pass. Okay, let's see if we can roll a 3+ and a 3+. Rolled a 6, and we rolled a 2, but because our catcher has a skill called catch, they're allowed to re-roll for free. So we managed to catch the ball. And our catcher is really fast, so let's run over here. And look, we're actually really close, well, comparatively close, to my opponent's end zone. Unfortunately, now being able to run is good and all, but now let's take a moment to talk about blocking, or tackling, which is arguably the more important part of the game. To hit another player, you'll need to do a block. When trying to block another player, you compare the strength of your player and the player you're trying to block. If the strength value is the same, you roll 1 die. If your player is stronger, you roll 2 dice and pick the best results. And if your player is weaker, then you roll 2 dice and your opponent picks the result. There are 5 different symbols on the block die, so let's go through them from worst to best. The one you don't want to show up is the attacker down symbol. That means that your player is knocked down and they have to roll for armor and injury and can get injured. That's bad. Then we have both down. Both down means that both players are knocked to the ground unless they have block. Thirdly, we have push. There are 2 sides of the die that shows the push symbol. The push symbol means that you do not knock over your opponent, you just push them back into one of 3 squares, which you pick. Now we get into the good stuff. We have defender stumbles. Defender stumbles knocks down the opponent unless they have a skill called dodge, which most players don't. And finally, the big one, the POW. This is the one you want. This just knocks down your opponent, you get to roll for armor, and then injury. Once you knock down a player, you roll 2 d6 dice. Add the results together and try and beat the player's listed armor value. If you do, you then roll 2 more d6 dice and roll on the injury table. If you roll high enough, you hurt the player and they're removed from the pitch. All of this is done by the game, and if you injure a player, you get a cool animation as a reward. These orcs really want to stop this human catcher from scoring. The human catcher is strength 2, so how about we take one of these orc linemen and try and blitz this catcher and see if we can knock it down. Let's declare our action, confirm it, and then let's run down and see if we can get a good hit. Now, unfortunately, we rolled an attacker down and we rolled a push. Neither of these results allow us to knock down the catcher. Let's see if we can use a team reroll and try again. No. The catcher stays put. Let's push him to the sideline and follow to make it as hard as possible for the humans to score. Now, this is probably a good time to talk about rerolls. As mentioned previously, if you fail a roll, then your turn is over. So to mitigate that, there are a few ways that you get to re-roll a die that you failed. Actually, you can re-roll any die, but I would recommend just re-rolling the one that you fail. First, you have the team rerolls. You can buy this at team creation, and later on in the game you can also buy them with the money you gain from playing matches. However, they cost a bit more if you buy them later. A team reroll you can use to reroll any die pool in the game, and we saw that just now with our line orc that tried to blitz down the human catcher and failed. They used a team reroll to reroll those dice. There are also several skills that players have when you buy them or can gain through experience that let you reroll certain actions. For example, the human thrower who threw a pass earlier has a skill called pass that lets that thrower reroll a failed pass roll. You can use team rolls several times in a turn, but you're only allowed to use a reroll on a die pool once. But you're only allowed to reroll a set of dice once. So if you roll, you fail, and you reroll, and you fail again, you can't use another reroll to reroll those dice. The second result always stands. Okay, with that said, it's a new turn. Our catcher here is within scoring range. They have a movement 8. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. However, if we try and run all the way down, this Orc lineman's tackle zone is in the way. It requires us to make rolls, which we don't want to do. So let's see if we can remove this line orc. Remember, you get to do 1 blitz per turn, so this human lineman here might be able to blitz this line orc and push him out of range. We didn't get a knockdown, but we did get a push, and that's all we need, because we can use the push here to move the line orc out of the way. And you may have noticed as well that this human lineman got an extra strength boost. That's because when one of your players is standing next to an opponent player and you blitz them with something of equal strength, you get an assist, and we saw that popping up. So now we get to run and score. Touchdown has been scored. Both teams have set up again, and now it's the Orcs' turn to try and score a touchdown. But as you can see, we've used up 3 turns on the human side, and we've only used up 2 on the Orc side. So, let's go Orcs. Once the game is done, you will receive money, and your players will receive star player points based on what they've achieved in a game. So for stuff like injuring a player, scoring a touchdown, completing a pass, and a few other things, your players will get star player points, also known as experience. Once they get a certain set of star player points listed here, they can buy upgrades, making your team and players better. There's a lot more to Blood Bowl. I haven't gone through most of the skills, I haven't gone through tactics for the different races or anything like that, so there are a lot of things to learn. But if any of this sounds interesting to you, I really encourage you to give Blood Bowl 3 a chance. The game itself includes a tutorial, a scenario that you can play through. Personally, for me, I like doing that and then getting as quickly as possible into some games against other human players. You're probably going to get slaughtered early on, but that's how you learn. I've been cKnoor. Thanks for watching. I'll also still be cKnoor once you've done watching. I'm not going to cease to exist. Just so you know. You don't have to worry about that. If you want more Blood Bowl content to watch, there's definitely more Blood Bowl content on my channel, so please feel free to look around. And if you have any questions, there are the comments below.